with a single utterance and kind of enable them to see the pathway forward.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you can even, it doesn't even have to be that accurate, and which is the thing that neuroscience has taught us, oxytocin, dopamine, depend upon what neurochemicals being hit. I mean, when you're inaccurate and they correct you, they actually get a hit of dopamine, which they love. I mean, people hate being corrected, but they love to correct. It's a great way to create a bond that the other person doesn't even know is being built.
Well, and if you're incorrect in your labeling, at least the person then has something they can object to that's concrete.
You talk about that a bit, right? The importance of getting somebody to say no. That was interesting. Like, is it possible to describe that a little bit?
Yeah, no is one of the craziest words. And we, hearing it, we're taught when we're little, what's the first word every child learns? No.
Yeah, and they love that word.
Yeah.
Yes.
They get hammered with it over and over again. So we're conditioned that when we hear it, we've done something wrong. But at the same time, we're conditioned when we say it, we protected ourselves. So if I get you to say no, you feel protected, you're going to want to talk. You're going to feel good about the interaction. You're not going to feel threatened. You're more likely to open up. I mean, even something as little as nobody in my company says to anybody, have you got a few minutes to talk? It's always is now a bad time to talk. Complete change in the other side's reaction.
Right. And so you say instead, is this a bad time to talk?
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Or so even like, I won't say, is this a good idea? I'll say, is this a dumb idea? And you'll probably go like, no, it's not a dumb idea, but here are the following problems. Here's what we got to do. I mean, it's a complete change in reaction.
Yeah. Well, if you watch 2-year-olds with no, because they really latch onto that word. It's really remarkable. Right. And the reason for that is that it enables them to protect themselves against being hijacked by other people, right? It's actually the word that defines the boundary between them and the world and enables them to have some autonomy. It's amazing. I remember I babysat a little kid at one point, or maybe it was my own son. It might have been Julian. No, I think it was a kid I was babysitting. He was an unbelievably stubborn little kid. And I was trying to get him to do something just to interact with me, and I offered him a bunch of different enticements. And
wait a minute, you as a psychologist is having trouble getting a 2-year-old to cooperate? Come on.
This was a particularly stubborn little 2-year-old, but he took no.
Was there a bloodline connection? Is that why it was so?
No. This was truly the neighbor's child, actually. But he was willing to say no to M&Ms and ice cream, which was, he caught himself when he noticed that he had said it. But the no was such an attractive proposition to him that he was willing to forgo even basic immediate rewards just for the thrill of being able to maintain that autonomy.
Yeah.
So we should go through your technique, let's say, your techniques with some order. So I'm going to read a couple, and maybe you could just describe what you mean by them. So you have tactical empathy, for example.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we're trying to take, first of all, the point of calling it that was taking it out of today's common usage of empathy is sympathy or even compassion. Now, I would argue that I would offer that empathy is a very compassionate thing to do. But going back to the real reason I first started collaborating with Harvard, they said empathy is not agreement. It's not sympathy. It's not even liking the other side. It's just completely understanding. The basis on from Rogers in psychology, the stuff that anybody that's pursued this has studied. Now let's add in neuroscience, tactically. Tactically, we know that the amygdala is kind of the crossroads of all our thoughts, and it's wired to be negative, 75% negative. And tactically, we know that simply identifying a negative diminishes it, not denying it, identifying it. You think I'm a jerk? No, I don't think you're that much of a jerk. By saying that, you've diminished it in the other side. So let's just put a tactical application to our empathy, knowing that the negative emotions have 4 times the impact, 3 at least, on people's thinking. So let's approach and come in through a different door.
And it's tactical because, well, this is something that needs to be clarified too, is that when you're negotiating, what is it you're striving to attain, do you think? And if it's a win, people conceptualize the success of a negotiation in different ways. It could be you win, which means you get what you want. It could be win-win, in which case both people get what they want. You can go beyond that because you could say that in a really successful negotiation, people even discover new things they didn't know they wanted, and they get those too. So, tactical towards what end? If you had a philosophy of negotiation, what might that be?
The philosophy is great collaboration, which requires long-term relationships. And ideally, every deal kicks stuff out that you didn't expect that delighted you, which is going to addict you to want to continue to deal with me. Great long-term relationship. If every deal we're in, you're delighted, you can't wait to do another one.
Right. So that's absolutely crucial because it puts it within a real moral framework, right? Because otherwise you could learn to negotiate for psychopathic reasons, which would be only short-term interests of yourself. But if you put it in a framework where you're trying to set yourself up to play repeatedly with the same person or with a whole variety of different people, then an ethic automatically enters into.
Right. Your reputation precedes you. I mean, you get a reputation for doing nothing but good for people. People line up to do business with you.
Right, exactly. And reputation is actually the marker for your utility as a long-term partner.
Yeah. Yep.
How did that work with specifically FBI negotiations? I mean, if you're dealing with somebody like a hostage taker, how does that end up being a win for them?
Yeah, well, first of all, the crazy thing is hostage negotiators have reputational concerns. We have repeat customers. And even if the guy that we're dealing with, even if he goes to jail and never comes out, how we handle him is going to get into the media. So reputation is an immediate concern. And people are so driven by where it's taking them in the long run. I mean, if somebody has a vision of the future, no matter how far down the line that vision is, that's a good thing. Now we get something to talk about. And, my first response with a bank robber is really going to be, sounds like you want to survive. Of course they do. Otherwise they'd have come out and gotten shot already. Now we get something to talk about.
How do you deal with the people who don't want to survive?
You can pick that up pretty quickly. You're going to know right off the bat. If you're there to hear it. And the analogy in the business world, not everybody wants to do the deal with you. Maybe they want to exploit you. Maybe they want to take advantage of you. Maybe they see it as a one-off. Maybe they're playing you for a fool. You've got to pick that up in your everyday negotiations as well.